Happy Tuesday, live from Houston, Texas. Welcome to Stellar Parenting with Brandi. I'm your host, Brandi Kahn. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I also hold a Master of Science degree in psychology with an emphasis in child and adolescent development. And I'm very passionate about helping parents to custom design their approach to parenting based on their child's natal chart. If you'd like to work with me, please visit my website, brandycon.com, for more information. Now, in today's show, we've got some really good things lined up. Last week, I mentioned children who have memories of past lives. So that's what we will be exploring today. And then after we talk about that for a bit, I will give you the transits coming up for this week. And heads up, this is a very energetically charged week. So you'll want to stick around to hear about how you can use the energy to your advantage. Now, let's begin with this fascinating topic about children who remember past lives. So, whether you are a deeply spiritual person, or maybe you're just curiously skeptical, or maybe you're somewhere in between, stories of children who recall previous lifetimes raises questions that really stretch the boundaries of psychology, of spirituality, and parenting. So today I'm going to share the real life stories of two children who stunned their families with vivid, verifiable details of past lives. And also, I'll be sharing what we as parents can learn from these moments of mystery. So let's begin with the idea itself. In many spiritual traditions, from Hinduism, Buddhism, to some indigenous traditions and mystical Christian perspectives, it's believed that the soul incarnates again and again for the purpose of learning through each lifetime. And sometimes, especially in early childhood, that's when the veil between the worlds is still quite thin. Children can still retain memories, phobias, talents, or even accents and languages from previous lifetimes. And that's because their memories have not yet been shaped or erased by social conditioning or logic. Now, sometimes, children will make statements about past lives that can be surprisingly detailed. And from an astrological perspective, let's just talk about the astrology, how astrology comes in here. This really makes sense because in the natal chart, we have what's known as the South Node. And the South Node is the point that gives clues about the previous lifetime or soul patterns that we are bringing into this lifetime from other lifetimes that we've lived before. So, what happens when a child actually remembers? How does it show up? How does it manifest? So, memories can show up in different ways. The first way is through nightmares or recurring dreams with the same theme. Or maybe they make spontaneous statements like, when I was big, or when I was with my other family, or when I was with my other mommy and daddy. They also might have unusual knowledge of people, places, or skills, or they may have a phobia with no known cause, or they could have a deep emotional connection to a certain time period or culture. Now, in most cases, when this happens, children will start talking about their past life memories when they're just toddlers, usually between the ages of 2 and 4. And those memories tend to fade by the time they're around 6 or 7. About 75% of these children that have these memories, they describe how they died in a past life. And most of those deaths, around 70%, were sudden or traumatic. Now, in numerous cases, a child's statements align closely with the life and death details of a specific deceased individual. So, some children have birthmarks or physical anomalies that match injuries or scars from the person that they are describing, often confirmed through post mortem reports. And skeptics, I know skeptics might say, oh, this is all made up. This is all make believe. Maybe the parents are pushing this story for attention, or maybe this child just has a really vivid imagination. But here's the thing, none of these explanations fully hold up when you look closely at the research. Some of these children know details, very, very specific details that they simply could not have known any other way. The Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia is the only academic institution dedicated to researching this phenomenon. It's founded by Dr. Ian Stevenson in 1967. The program is now led by Dr. Jim Tucker and his research team. And over the past 50 years, they've examined more than 2,500 documented cases of children who report past life memories. So, just to show you what I mean, here's one especially powerful case. So, our first story comes from the United States, and it's one of the most well documented cases in modern times of James Leininger. James is a young boy who remembered being a fighter pilot in World War II. So at just 2 years old, James began having recurring nightmares of a plane crash. And he'd wake up screaming, airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out. And his parents, Bruce and Andrea, were baffled because he kept telling them that his plane was shot down. And when his father asked him, who shot down your plane? James told him it was the Japanese. And soon James began naming details such as a Corsair plane and a ship called the Natoma. And his parents were initially skeptical, but they started researching and they found a ship called the USS Natoma Bay, which indeed had fought in the Pacific during World War II. And guess what? There was a pilot named James Houston Jr. from that ship who died in combat. And everything that young James Leininger, was saying matched up with Houston's life and death. James's parents even spoke about how when he was younger, he had three G.I. Joe figurines and he named them Billy, Walter, and Leo. And his parents asked him why he picked those names. And he told them because those were the three people who met him when he died and went to heaven. So after researching the names, it was discovered that James Houston, the fighter pilot, actually did have three friends who died in combat before him with those exact names. Now, over a period of time, James's memories began to fade, but his story left a really deep impression, not just on his family, but on researchers of consciousness around the world. So, what can we learn from James's story as parents? Well, first, listen when it sounds strange. So, if your child says something strange, just take a moment and listen and don't rush to label it as just imagination, trauma, or fantasy. We really want to trust the inner experience that our children are having, okay? Now, here's another remarkable story of another child who remembered a past life with stunning clarity. So, this is the story of Luke, also a boy from the United States. He actually grew up in Ohio. And at the time of, that this began, he was just 2 years old. And when he was two, he began sharing memories that had nothing to do with his current life, but everything to do with a woman named Pam. So I know that this sounds unusual, but stick with me here, okay? So it started with really small, seemingly innocent statements. One day, while looking up at an airplane in the sky, Luke turned to his mother and said, I used to be a girl. I used to have black hair. I used to be Pam, but then I died. And understandably, his mom was really confused. And she thought, who's Pam? And where did he even hear that name? But Luke seemed certain. Over time, he shared more. He shared that Pam lived in a big city. She wore earrings all the time. She had brown skin. He died suddenly, he said, after jumping from a burning building. Now, Luke's family was absolutely floored. Because not only was this kid consistent, but he never changed the details, even months apart. But his stories were very, very emotionally charged. And that's one of the characteristics of past life memories is there's this emotional charge to the memory. And with Luke, there was no sense of pretend. There was just a solemn knowing. So his parents were skeptical, just like James's parents were skeptical, but they were also curious. So they did some digging and they searched records and they found something chilling. There was, in fact, a woman named Pamela Robinson who died in 1993 at the fire at the Paxton Hotel in Chicago. She had brown skin, just as Luke had said. She wore big earrings and she had jumped from a burning building. But here's what really caught their attention. They showed Luke a photo lineup of various women, and without hesitation, Luke pointed to Pam and said, "That's me. That's me. I found me." Now, let's just pause here for just a second. We've got a 2-year-old boy with no connection to Chicago identifying as an African American woman who died tragically in a fire and using the words, "That's me." Well, eventually Luke stopped talking about Pam. And many children, this is normal for many children with past life memories. As their brains develop and they ground more fully into the current incarnation, these memories often begin to fade. But what never fades is the mark these early stories leave behind and the way that they shape how we see childhood, memory, and the soul. So, what can we learn from Luke? Again, first, always listen. If your child shares something unusual, don't panic. Just listen with your heart. Second, write it down. You never know what patterns might emerge later. And third, honor the emotion, even if the story feels impossible. Whether or not you believe in reincarnation, the emotional reality of a child is always valid. Because here at Stellar Parenting, I'm trying to teach you and share with you that we're not just raising children, we're walking beside ancient souls on a brand new journey. And I'd love to hear from you listeners if anyone has had a similar experience with one of their children, or you've had a similar experience with one of your children, please find me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok and let me know. Send me a message. I'm so interested to hear from you. And next week, we will be talking about star seeds and children who are star seeds and how you as a parent, if you do have a child who identifies as a star seed, how you can best support them on their journey. So let's move to our transits for this week, and this will be June 9th through the 15th. And every week on this show, I take a few moments to talk about the current astrological transits. And it's not because the planets control us, okay? But it's because the energy of the planets is reflected within each and every one of us. And and the transits offer us a cosmic weather report so that we can navigate life with more clarity, more compassion, and more conscious intention. And this way, we're not just coping with the energy, we're actually using it to co create our lives, to co create our experiences. So, understanding the week's energy allows us to align with the energy instead of resisting it and to move with the current instead of against it. And it's all about choosing the highest frequency available to each and every one of us in every moment. And that's what I call stellar alignment. This is how we reach our highest self. This is how we reach our highest timeline, and we raise children connected to their higher selves as well. So let's take a look at what this week has in store for us and how we can meet it with intention, grace, and the alignment of our soul. So we're going to backtrack for just a moment because there was a significant event yesterday, Monday, June 9th. The planet Jupiter moved into the water sign of Cancer for the next year. This is highly significant because Jupiter represents growth, abundance, expansion, wisdom, good fortune, morality, faith, and the law. And Cancer is the water sign associated with the emotions, with home and family and past memories and maternal figures. So, Jupiter entering the sign of Cancer is going to be particularly a significant event for those of you with your sun or moon in the sign of Cancer, or for those of you who have Cancer on your ascendant or you're a Cancer rising. It's going to be huge for you. So, as Jupiter moves into Cancer, we will be connecting more deeply to family, to inner security, and the places or the people that feel most like home to us, and themes around parenting, caregiving, and emotional safety will really take center stage and invite us to cultivate a deeper sense of empathy. And what I want you to do, I want each and every one of you to look at your natal chart and see which area of your chart is in the sign of Cancer, because that's the area that's going to experience the expansion of Jupiter. So, for example, if you have Cancer in the 10th house is the house of career, public reputation, success and achievement, public success and achievement. So, with Jupiter moving into your 10th house, you could have an absolute glow up when it comes to your career, or when it comes to success, achievement, or your public reputation. So, it's pivotal that you know where Jupiter is in your chart so that you know exactly where this good luck and opportunity will meet you. Also, I want each and every one of you, I want you to think back to 2013. So think back to 12 years ago, July of 2013 through July of 2014. It's the last time Jupiter was in Cancer. So, what was going on in your life during that time? Because similar themes could be coming up for you again over the next year, the same ones that you faced around mid 2013 to middle of 2014. Home renovations, family healing, or even fertility and adoption matters may come into focus. And spiritually, Jupiter in Cancer supports intuitive expansion and the kind of inner growth that happens when we're in a place where we feel safe enough to heal. But Jupiter's expansive nature can also magnify Cancer's shadow side. So there could be overdependence, a fear of abandonment, or clinging to the past with this placement as well. The key here is to expand your emotional capacity without being overwhelmed by it. Now, on Monday, June 9th, last evening, last night, did any of you have vivid dreams? Really vivid, super vivid dreams? Because last night we had Mercury 2 degrees of Cancer squaring Neptune 2 degrees of Aries, and you may still be feeling this right now. So, Mercury rules the mind, details, and thoughts, and Neptune governs dreams, intuition, and the unseen realm. And when these two are at odds, because this is a square, it can lead to confusion, misunderstanding, and miscommunication. So today, I want you to make sure that you formulate what you say to others in a very precise way in order to avoid any form of misrepresentation or distortion of the truth. Because any tendency right now to mislead or hide the truth can lead to an unpleasant situation. So also be careful in any kind of negotiation or business meetings because you could be the victim of misrepresentation if the energy goes the wrong way. But on the lighter side, this transit really opens the door to heightened imagination, spiritual downloads, and intuitive insights if you slow down and really tune in. Tomorrow, June 11th, Mercury at 5 degrees of Cancer will sextile Venus at 5 degrees of Taurus. So, this is a gentle, harmonious transit that really enhances communication with warmth, charm, and diplomacy. Mercury governs our thoughts and words, while Venus rules love, beauty, and connection. So when they form this supportive sextile, conversations tend to flow much easily or easier. And we become more attuned to the feelings of others. So it's a wonderful time, guys, for expressing affection, smoothing over misunderstandings, and engaging in creative or artistic expression. So, whether you're writing, speaking, negotiating, or simply connecting with your loved ones, this energy really brings grace and ease to your interactions. So, reach out to someone that you love and express appreciation or resolve any lingering misunderstandings with kindness. Also, tomorrow, June 11th, we will have a full moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, full moons are times of completion, closure, and culmination, and they can be very emotionally intense times. And full moons are all about release. And this one invites us to shed the stories that keep us stuck, especially stories rooted in fear, doubt, or inherited conditioning. So this full moon is ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, which is exalted. And Jupiter will be stationed at 0 degrees of Cancer, which is one of the world points or Aries points. Okay. So, because of this, we could see significant world events with this lunation. And there could be information that comes out publicly around a political leader. And, part of me, I'm just wondering here if the ongoing situation in Los Angeles here in the United States, I really feel almost that the energy of the full moon is at play here with that situation. And it's also interesting. This full moon will be exactly conjunct the full moon of our president. So, what will that mean? Will there be news that comes out around him, or will there be particular actions that he takes? I'm not sure. But just know that with this particular full moon, it's hitting his moon exactly, precisely to the degree. So there should be events around the president of the US over the next few days. Now, on an individual level, with this full moon forming a powerful grand fire trine to Mars in Leo and Chiron in Aries, there's potent energy here for healing through bold action. And fire burns away what's no longer needed, but it also illuminates. So ask yourself, where have I been playing small in my life? What truth am I finally ready to live out loud? Because it's the perfect time to share your wisdom by teaching, speaking, or podcasting something that's meaningful because your experience may light the way for someone else. But I want you to avoid impulsive decisions. The fire trine adds momentum, it adds energy, but remember to align your actions with your values and not just with a sense of excitement. And finally, so this is one that we really want to watch out for this week, and it comes at the end of the week on Sunday, June 5th, 15th. But I really want you to keep this particular transit in mind. We have Mars at 28 degrees of Leo that will be squaring Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus. So Mars is the planet of action, energy, and drive. And Uranus adds an element of the unexpected to the mix. So Uranus is all about freedom, independence, no restrictions, rebellion, revolution. Okay, these are themes of Uranus. So this transit, whenever we see it, it really represents a time of restlessness and impulsiveness. And it will be easier to feel more frustrated than usual because we might have the tendency to interpret things as a threat to our ego. Now, also, again, I'm going to bring up current events here in the US because there are protests, and the National Guard has been deployed, and now Marines have been deployed to the city of Los Angeles. And I know that there are supposed to be some protests that are continuing this weekend. And this is when the energy of this transit is going to hit. All right. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Okay. A lot of Mars, Uranus energy, a lot of restlessness, and a lot of impulsiveness. And during this time, you might feel an urgent need to break free from restrictions, whether that's in relationships or your routines or from authority structures. And this could manifest on an individual level as impulsive decisions, reckless behavior, or sudden changes in direction. Now, this transit on the lower side can also coincide with accidents or mechanical failures, especially if you're acting without thinking, without presence, or you're pushing your physical limits. So, if you're behind the wheel, if you are operating heavy machinery, I want your mind focused on what you're doing. I want you to be fully present, especially for the rest of this week through the weekend, through Monday, Tuesday of next week. Okay. Be very present, be mindful around vehicles, around machinery, or while engaging in risky activities. And if I'm speaking to any people that may be protesting this weekend, keep a level head, keep a cool head. This energy of Mars and Uranus, like I mentioned, will be stir up a lot of restlessness and impulsiveness and pushing back against authority figures. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're using this energy in a responsible way and for its highest good. So that wraps up our show for today. And next week, again, like I mentioned earlier, we will be diving into star seeds and children who are star seeds, and what does being a star seed, what does that mean, how does it show up, and if you have a child that is a star seed, how you can best support them. So, like I always like to remind you, the stars may guide us, but we hold the ultimate power to shape our destiny. So use this power consciously, and I hope you have an amazing week. See you here next week.